So we just began our trip around the world, and today I'm going to be doing a review of the Norwegian Sun. Our journey began in Las Vegas airport, and we had to pack for basically any sort of weather. As you can see, we carried everything that we had in our backpacks. We didn't travel with any check-in luggage and preferred to go around with basically a very light bag. We checked into the Norwegian Sun at Honolulu, and check-in was relatively easy. Essentially, we just had to show our documents, and we were on the ship as quickly as that. Just a little bit about the Norwegian Sun. This is an older ship, and it was originally built in 2001 and refurbished in 2018. The max capacity for the ship was a little over 1,900 people. For this cruise, we actually traveled from Honolulu and explored all over Hawaii, and subsequently the cruise had 4 sea days and went down to French Polynesia. We subsequently disembarked in Tahiti. My overall impression of the ship was that it did show a bit of its age, but overall was a very, very pleasant experience. As you can see, we booked an interior cabin, and the quarters were quite small. It was enough space for me, my wife, and my son. The bathroom was a little cramped, but it was always generally well maintained. The staff was excellent in terms of keeping up with cleanliness. Making our way into the Lido deck, you can see that there are 2 main pools and 4 central hot tubs. During the sea days, the hot tub and the pool area was generally pretty crowded, but again, was not so bad that it deterred from the experience. We then went into the Garden Cafe, which was the general buffet area, and they had different types of ice cream every day, which were included in the fare. They also had a general spread of world cuisine. On certain days, they would have Filipino food, and on other days, they would have Greek, they would have Asian. Breakfast, however, was generally the same. It was always a spread of eggs and yogurt and general breads and muffins. As you can see from the video, it does tend to get a little bit crowded. These areas were a little bit more cramped, and people were there quite frequently. Making our way into the gym area, they did have a space here for exercise classes and activities. The gym was generally well equipped. They had weights, free weights, they had machines, they had treadmills, and a number of cycles and a rowing machine. Overall, again, pretty spacious, pretty good. Of course, it didn't help that the gym was right next to the buffet. So, of course, you would always be kind of killing your gains. We set sail, and very, very pleasant views all around the ship. You had also an area where there was a running track, which we will get into in a bit. Going through our tour here, this is a view through the main promenade area. They have a photography center there, and making my way over here into their library. It was generally pretty large for a ship library. The room to my right here did have a bunch of board games, and that was basically for family activity. The other main area where there was dining was the sit-down area, and this was the Seven Seas dining room, where basically you would get served whatever was on the menu for the day. And again, generally speaking, the menu was pretty diverse in terms of the ethnic types of food that were served. And overall, again, a very pleasant experience. There wasn't any mind-blowing meal that I was ever served. But then again, I can't remember having a bad meal. So overall, I thought the dining experience was very good. They also had some for pay restaurants that you can make reservations for, including a Brazilian churrascaria, which we'll get into in a bit. This is the view from the upper deck of the Lido deck. You can see the basketball court here on the left. Somewhat disappointing as there weren't a lot of onboard activities with regards to these areas. There wasn't a golf course as usual with certain ships, but again, this is expected with an older vessel. Here we're going through their sports bar. Again, this is one of their for paid dining rooms. It was open to the public during the day, but at night they would have their customers come in and you would be treated just like you would at any restaurant. This is the churrascaria, and during the lunch they would serve pizza, which was generally pretty good, and they would also be serving soups, which were off the buffet menu. Making our way to the back of the ship, this is another separate dining area, and during the beautiful weather days, this would be the place to be. The weather was spectacular during certain days, and it would be a very, very big feature of the ship to be hanging out in the back. They also had a bar back here. They also had another buffet area that was hidden behind a wall. Here we're on that running track that I was speaking of earlier, and it was basically just a loop on the sixth deck where you can walk or jog around the ship. You'd have enough space. You get these great water views, and overall, a very nice area to sometimes take in the sights, particularly when we were pulling away from some of the islands that we were sailing from. Generally, again, good experience, nothing really to talk about in terms of criticisms. Like I said before, there were times where the ship did feel a little bit crowded. This ship was at capacity when we boarded, and it's one of the transitional cruises that we've been on where there would be passengers offloading and passengers onboarding without emptying the ship entirely, which was an interesting experience. Here is the promenade with the vendors, and didn't really spend a lot of time there, but you can see that it's pretty well stocked. Lots of stuff that you can choose to spend your money on, a lot of jewelry. If shopping is your thing, I'm sure you can find something. They also had an area where they had some tourist t-shirts and that sort of thing. They had a duty-free gift shop. Making our way into the casino, they had every game that you can imagine. Unfortunately, in Hawaii, they actually prohibited gambling while we were at port. But once we were at sea, they were open for business. And even in French Polynesia, they were also available. They had blackjack. I believe the minimum bet for blackjack was $5. This is the Stardust Theater where most of the entertainment was done. Entertainment was generally okay. I wouldn't say it was anything great. This was Splash Academy, where we left our child during certain hours. He was free to check in and out. He was reluctant at first, but ultimately did enjoy it. So that the ship tour, generally, I got to tell you that we had a very pleasant experience. There were a lot of uh, good crew members that made our experience very, very good. Our steward was great. Some of the crew staff was excellent, and the wait staff, the wishy-washy people, they were all very, very pleasant and memorable, and all very, very hardworking. And they really did try to make the cruise as enjoyable for everybody as possible. I will say that the cruise ship is a little smaller and a little older, and so don't expect a perfect experience. If you were expecting an experience where you would maybe get the same experience you would have at land, then this is not your cruise. I would tell you go look for a larger ship like the Icon or something along those lines. But if you are more of a traditional cruiser that appreciates the smaller ships and the fact that the ship can go to multiple ports, then this might be for you. I can't stress enough how much the crew worked in terms of keeping us happy and overall a very, very pleasant experience. That's it for now. I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. The next stop is going to be our tour of Hawaii in the next video, followed by French Polynesia, and hope to see you there. Thanks again.